The time is just gone 9:56 a.m. and we started off the show this earlier on talking with Siddiq Skinkam, and we heard about the visit of the King of Saudi Arabia, Salman, inviting South African President Cyril Ramaphosa to Saudi Arabia, and looking at all the different social media groups talking about yes, Cyril Ramaphosa, particularly from a Muslim perspective, to increase the quota for Hajj and to address this issue with the king. But there are many other issues that Cyril Ramaphosa can address. And when one looks at the Middle East, when one looks at the Arab world, and in many parts around the Arab world, sadly, the whole question surrounding exploitation and the inhumane treatment of expats. And we know for a long time, even from the Indian or the Asian part of the world, many of the expats, and we've heard about the inhumane treatment, about exploitation, about many people who have actually died, and the human rights get actually trampled upon as workers. And African migrants are no different. And this is where we've seen Tahir Maepa actually put out a post talking to Cyril Ramaphosa, telling Cyril Ramaphosa to address the plight of African migrants employed by Saudi Arabia during his visits, talking about the inhumane treatment. And this is what we are talking about this morning. Tahir Maepa, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Juma Mubarak, my brother, and welcome.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Juma Mubarak to you and the team there. Thank you very much for having me.
Yes, for the very reasons, and when we talk about Saudi Arabia as Muslims, the first thing that comes to mind is Hajj and Umrah. But there are many other issues. I mean, we should be talking about these issues. We are talking about a country that is supposedly the leader of the Muslim world. So when we are talking about Islam, when we're talking about humanity, when we're talking about human rights, we need to look introspect and look within ourselves. What are we as Muslim countries are doing? And this is exactly what your post is reminding President Cyril Ramaphosa to do.
Absolutely. Habibi, this problem of the Gulf states, the exploitation that they practice against workers, especially from Africa and Indian subcontinent, it's really unacceptable. And it's something that needs to be called out. And from a trade union point of view, PSCU is part of the International Solidarity Front that deals with these kinds of issues across the globe. Because the working class can only be as strong so long as we are united. We cannot just be happy simply because of we have laws in this country that protects the workers. And then elsewhere in the world, these things are not happening. But for Saudi, it's personal. It's personal in a sense that I speak not only as an activist or as a Muslim, as a trade unionist, but I also speak as a Muslim. These are the custodians of our two holiest sites. And we as Muslims, 1.6 or 8 billion of us who all face that direction when we do our swala. It's a shame that the custodians are allowing their countrymen to continue mistreating our people. It may not necessarily be the government of Saudi Arabia's policy for the treatment of expats or migrants who come and work in Saudi Arabia. However, as the country, as a sovereign country, they've got responsibility towards people who are under their care. And everybody who goes to Saudi Arabia to go and work there, it is the responsibility of the government of Saudi Arabia to make sure that these people are treated well and they are treated within the ambit of international law. Now, one of the things that are said is the fact that Saudi Arabia is part of the International Labour Organization. In fact, I met the Saudi ambassador to Geneva during my campaign for Professor Mdwaba to become the DG of ILO. And one of the things that we raised during our campaign, and it's one of the reasons why Professor Mdwaba was probably not favored, was the issues of human rights. And, the moment you are in alliance then, and you tell a lion that, the manner in which you are savaging the forest is unacceptable, nobody will accept it. But these things needs to be said. And Saudi Arabia, being the custodians of the two holy sites, being the ones who are responsible, and the human rights in Islam is paramount. It's non-negotiable. We expect them to do better than this. And that is why we are calling on our President Cyril Ramaphosa to say that, you know what, let it not be a picture session when you go to Saudi Arabia to receive those beautiful gifts. Because one thing about Saudis, they know how to treat people who visit there. They'll shower you with gifts and all that, and you end up forgetting exactly why you are there. He must be straightforward with the Saudi government that we as South Africa and as Africans, we are dissatisfied and we are horrified by the manner in which the reports that we get about the way Africans and other workers from elsewhere are treated in Saudi Arabia. And Saudi Arabia needs to change their way of treating people, or else they are going to be faced with a problem. You know, the world, Habibi, is now so small that everybody is able to revenge whatever that they feel they need to revenge. And we don't want Arabs who are, for instance, across Africa to be the victims of the actions of their countrymen in Saudi Arabia, because that's exactly what is going to happen. If my family member is treated like that, we have heard of incidences that people even die in the Gulf states due to these kinds of treatment. And we cannot just sit back and allow it. We're saying to them, we want human rights to prevail all over the world. And the Gulf states or the Middle East is no exception.
Well, certainly, and like you mentioned, is the exploitation that goes. And I recall a few years ago, I actually did a whole program, and this was an article that was entitled "The Towers That Slaves Built," and this was with specific reference to Dubai and the skyscrapers. But when one looks at the exploitation that had actually gone into the building of those towers, people will marvel and says, you know what, these are masterpieces. But when you look at people dying, working in 50, 60-degree heat, people that have died as a result, people that did not get paid, that were exploited. And this is where, this is where it actually hits home. It hits home very, very hard. And this is exactly like the message that you are sending to Cyril Ramaphosa, where we know he is going to go there. He's going to get showered with gifts. They're going to talk about economic development. They're going to talk about Saudi Arabia, who have an interest in South Africa's energy sector, investment, loans, whatever you want to call it. Yes, these are big issues that need to be discussed. But the issues like, for instance, you mentioned human rights, inhumane treatment, these should not be forgotten, Tahir.
No, absolutely. As a country, and South Africa, we come from a very sad past. We know how it feels to be treated inhumane. And as a country, we cannot have a situation where we have a lovey-dovey relationship with regimes that are mistreating workers, especially. Human rights are universal. And the sad part is that most of these countries, they are the signatories to the Universal Human Rights Declarations, but yet the manner in which they are treating people is really unacceptable. And you are quite correct that we pay thousands of rands to go to places like Dubai to go and marvel at these nice buildings, but at what cost? At human cost. A lot of people die making us to come and marvel at what they died for. And we need to say, as human beings now, that sometimes these kinds of things, we need to start saying that we are not going to spend our hard and cash to go to countries that are treating people in an unacceptable fashion. And they can do better because, alhamdulillah, they are blessed with resources. They are blessed with capacity to be the best in the world. This is a choice for treating people like this. I don't even want to go into exploitation because of that is also another subject on its own. But the simple human rights element, the manner in which people work, under which conditions those people work, and the way they are stretched into cans like sardines, yet they expect them to be perform optimally and to reach the targets that have been set for them. I'm saying it's not supposed to. And we as trade unions, we need to start voicing out our disgust into these things, and we need to start putting pressure on the Gulf states, their representatives in this country, to say that change the laws, because of so long as the laws are not there to protect migrant workers, unfortunately this thing is going to perpetuate and it's not going to stop.
Well, Tahir, I know we haven't done justice to what we need to talk about. We've just basically scratched the surface. But I think what you are saying is very, very profound indeed. And also the post that you had put up. Let us hope that the president obviously takes note of what you have to say, Tahir.
Inshallah.
Well, Jazakallah for that. And also have yourself a wonderful Jummah, inshallah. Remember us in your du'as. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept your efforts. All the best to you, my brother.
All of the best for you and the team there. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Tahir Maepa joining us this morning. And on that note, yes, we are running a few minutes late. We've overrun, but have yourself a wonderful Jummah, inshallah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept all your efforts, inshallah. Continue being inspired, energized by this beautiful day of Jummah. And let us continue sending abundant durood on our beloved Master Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And with that, I'm going to be signing off from myself and the team here at Salam Media. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.